What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. We got a super special guest with us today. My friend, Milton Campis, host of the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. My brother, what is up? Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're a busy guy. I know you're recording mad podcasts. We were just talking before the show about how cool it is that we get to have this job basically talking for a living and talking a lot. So I want to hear about you, man. Like, can we just start off from the bat? Can you tell us about your story and just share with us how has jiu-jitsu helped you and your mental health?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I appreciate you guys. Absolutely love creating jiu-jitsu content. I left my actual career job so that I could do this more, and opened up a marketing company at the same time just to cover the bills. But it's working out pretty well. Myself, I think like most people, I started, I did some type of martial arts when I was a kid. I am, what are we in, April? I'll be 50 in June, at the end of June. But I did, karate when I was a kid and taekwondo as a teenager. Never really got very far. Always quit every sport I was in. I was actually a gymnast and a soccer player. Those were the two things that I really did the longest as a kid, into my teens. And my father still kicks me in the ass and says, I thought you were going to be a superstar soccer player. But fast forward, boxing fan, grew up with my dad watching, you guys look a little younger than me, Wide World of Sports on Saturday and Sunday afternoons. They'd have boxing matches in the parking lots out in Vegas. This is many, many moons ago. Always been a boxing fan. Always had like a bag hanging in the yard or in my apartments when I got older. Always had like the Everlast stand. So was always just like a fan of boxing, and I can't really say much, not really a big fan of martial arts, and didn't discover like the UFC till I moved to Florida when I was about 25. I had some roommates that were super into it. And then I started kicking that bag. I'm like, oh, well, let me kick this thing too, So it turned into, started to do a little bit more training. I found a gym that did some stand-up, and I see these guys doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, man, I've always wanted to do jiu-jitsu. I don't know. Always waiting, like, let me get into better shape, or let me wait, and, I don't know. It's finally had a friend of, really my wife's friend, a friend of the family, opened up a gym. It was right before my 41st birthday, and I said, listen, man, you're just starting in. I said, why don't we trade? I'll do your website and help you with your marketing, and, don't charge me for jiu-jitsu. Never paid the guy. For 2 years I trained with that guy, and never charged me. And I tell people I was addicted to jiu-jitsu before I even started jiu-jitsu, because I would watch, and I dated this girl, and she trained a little bit, and we'd roll around in the living room. I was addicted. I was just a huge fan before I even really truly got on the mat. And I remember when I told my coach, the very first time, he's sitting on the mat, I'm ready to get in his guard. He's like, what do you know? And I'm telling him, like, I did a little, wrestling in high school, in junior high, actually. And I'm like, but I'm a big UFC fan. I've seen all this stuff. And he just had this big smile on his face. He's like, come here, Mr. Come on, UFC guy, sure. You've seen a lot of stuff. And, he proceeded to, twist me into a pretzel. And again, I was in love. So that's where I got my start. And honestly, I say this a lot on our show. You either love it or you hate it. You get addicted or you don't. There's no in between. I was talking to some guys last night actually at the gym, and one of the blue belts said, he's like, it's funny, man. I just see so many people come and go, and it's usually life and relationships and moving, and people start and stop. But those guys they don't ever really stick to it. They will not be that 1 out of 10,000 that makes it to black belt, because they start and stop, and it just doesn't work in this world. You can go lift weights and then stop and then go lift weights again, and and you could do that for your whole life. But with jiu-jitsu, if you're doing it for a long time, if you're not consistent, you wind up quitting because you just start getting your ass beat. It's it's a huge downer to be walking into the gym and the new guy's kicking your ass. So again, I got addicted from day one, so it's been a blast, and I wouldn't have my life any other way. I could tell you a little bit about, I had a heart attack after training. So jiu-jitsu's definitely impacted me, and as it comes to, I don't know where my mental health would be if it wasn't for jiu-jitsu, because I've definitely, been a business owner, and there's a lot of stress around that. And like right now, I stopped lifting weights because I'm under a lot of stress between the podcast and the marketing company that I run, and we're selling our house. So I've just stopped lifting weights. I'm like, I have to get on the mats, man. I can't do this without going to choke somebody out for a little while. So yeah, it's something that if it's not part of my day, I think you guys probably know, you start to get, you tweak out a little bit. You're like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I haven't trained in 2 days. Yeah, I had a cold last week. I thought I had COVID because a training partner had COVID, and I wound up testing negative. Took me a week, got back on the mat, but man, the first couple of days was like, you kind of feel shitty. In one way, like, you feel good because nothing's hurting, but then you feel so shitty because you're just like, you kind of just feel like out of it for maybe even a couple of rolls, maybe a couple of days. For me, it was a couple of days. We had a nice open mat last night, and I was just like, all right, I'm back. I still know how to do this. I didn't forget everything in a week. So yeah, man, it's again a huge part of my life. I've got the podcast. I named my company Black Belt Digital Marketing. Like, my life revolves around this. The truck that I bought a Bronco recently. It's red and black, like our team colors. I'm addicted. I'm a lifer, man. I'm gonna do this till I can't physically do it anymore. And when I was a youngster, I said, every guy wants it. If you're gonna die, you want to die like having sex. Like, you want to die in bed with your hot younger wife. And now these days, I say, you know what? When I die, I want to be dying. I want to die on the mats. But I can tell you a little bit about my heart attack too, man. That's definitely a big part of my journey.
Man,
that was a lot. I'm sorry. You want me to? I think Scotty's popping in and out here. I can tell you a little bit about my heart attack, Scotty. How's that?
Yeah, dude, go for it. I was gonna say though, you look good for 50, dude. You're doing something right.
Thank you.
I would not have guessed 50.
I got rid of some of the gray for you guys today.
Okay.
It comes out here. You maybe can't see it so much, but yeah, it's in the genes. My parents are in their 70s, and they definitely look like 10, 15 years younger. So it's
cool.
It's definitely in the family genes. So I just have I had my mom's aunt. She just passed. I think she was 103. So yeah, there's something in the water around here. But yeah, again, jiu-jitsu is such a huge part of my life. I mean, it informs like just about everything I do. I had a heart attack. I started jiu-jitsu before my 41st birthday. It was in June, and I had my heart attack. I think it was June 17th. I think this June 17th is 6 years. I didn't have a heart attack because I was doing jiu-jitsu, but I had some clogged arteries. My main artery was 80% blocked, and then I had some blockages in some other areas. I had 4 stents put in. They take out the plaque, they put a little baggie in there, blow it up, push out the plaque, and then they put some stents to hold those arteries open. So I have two stents back to back in my main artery because it was so clogged, and then I had a couple of other stents put around other parts of my heart. So I was training on a Friday night and went to have some acai. There's a little Brazilian place right down the shopping center. Went with my boys to have some acai, and honestly, I had a little stomach ache. And funny enough, I just thought I had the fart. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I got to get home. I got to go to the bathroom. And I just felt like, just like you feel when like literally somebody's sitting on your chest, or somebody gives you a little knee on chest or knee on belly, you feel that pressure. So it was very familiar to me. Even like when you lift weights and like 2 days later, like your chest feels good, but you're like, oh, I feel the pressure. And didn't think much of it. Went home, told my wife, went to the bathroom, took a shower after practice. No big deal. That was a Friday night. Saturday, I went to train again. Same thing. Went home. Was like, oh, what? This feels weird. This isn't normal. I don't normally feel like this. I haven't been lifting, so it's not that. And my wife and I, we both did our morning workouts at different schools. She does a little kickboxing. I went to jiu-jitsu, and we both normally go out and do our separate errands, get in the cars, do our thing. And she came home, and I told her, I said, hon, I feel the same way. She said, let's just sit here. Let's just sit on the bed. Let's just chill out for a little bit, see how you feel. talked me into going into the hospital eventually. I went, smile on my face, no big deal. I wasn't like, oh, they're coming to get me. It wasn't like that, like you see in the movies. Went in, had an EKG, and there's like one nurse in the room, and then he leaves and he comes back with another nurse, and she looks at the EKG. They come back with another nurse and a doctor, and all of a sudden there's all these people in the room, and they never say the word heart attack because they don't want to literally give you another heart attack to get the shit out of you. They just say, we see some anomalies here. We're going to send you over to the cardiac unit at the hospital. And okay, obviously something's bad. It's like we're seeing some abnormalities. I get in the ambulance. They put me in an ambulance, take me from Coral Springs to Fort Lauderdale, which is normally about probably a 45-minute drive. They got me there in like 20 minutes. Those guys told me I was having a heart attack. Those guys, they saw that I was in good spirits. I was joking around with them. I'm just like, it was just like this. Like like I'm talking to you guys. I wasn't in tremendous amount of pain. The pain on my chest had subsided. I had some arm pain down each arm as well, but that went away. And then they tell me I'm having a heart attack. We got to get you over. And then it was like, again, I'm this is my personality all the time where I'm smiling. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm smiling. If I'm upset, I'm smiling. I'm going to crack a joke just to make myself feel better. And those guys were just kind of made me feel comfortable with it. We're going to get you over there. And like I said, I wound up having 4 stints put in over 2 days, stayed in the hospital for about 4 or 5 days. Had a little scare and went back one time, but it wasn't my heart. But I had to go back again a couple of months later and stay in the hospital and do all the tests again. But again, I think this month, I think that's 2017, so this will be 6 years. So 6 years later, my life is normal, other than I changed my dieting habits. I watch what I eat. But, talk about jiu-jitsu. I was back on the mat in 3 weeks. I asked the doctor. I said, he didn't know what jiu-jitsu was, and I'm like, can I train? I train jiu-jitsu, can I train? He's like, as long as nobody kicks you in the chest. I said, yeah, no, we're not a striking discipline, and I made him understand, and he's just like, yeah, just be a little careful with like a direct hit to your heart. But I was on the mats in 3 weeks, and never, except for COVID and a blown out knee during that time, I haven't left the mats again. So I definitely got me through it. And I said before, as far as mental health right now in my life, I run 2 companies, the podcast and a marketing company, and we're just putting our house on the market. We're probably signing off on the docs this weekend, so we're selling our house. So that's been stressful, and I'm just like, screw weight training. I'm just like, get me on the mats, get me into jiu-jitsu class, and that's what's been getting me through. So I really come out of there. Not only the camaraderie with the guys there, but just the stress that I'm feeling right now, my stress levels are super high. Even right now, man, I'm just like, I'm watching the clock. I'm like 7 o'clock, open mat tonight. I'm there. So I've gone on long enough, guys.
Man, I feel you, man. Hey, brother, thank you so much for sharing all that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And something that spoke to me a lot was just your ability to maintain that cool when that was happening, right? Like when that heart attack was happening, most people would freak out, right? And that would just make it worse, and potentially you could even die, from in that situation. You could literally die from freaking out, right? And isn't that a corollary to the mats? Like, how often are we stuck in bottom knee on belly, or bottom north south against some big dude, or bottom, your coach has got your back? Like my coach had my back on Monday. Like if coach has your back and you start freaking out, you're getting tapped like 100,000%. So I'm like, okay, coach has my back. I'm just going to chill. Like, I'll just relax, just take it easy. And I was able to get out, and I was able to not get tapped. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. So it's like that same sort of thing. Like, you can't freak out in those situations because you literally will die. Like, so let me ask you this, man. Where else, especially as a business owner, can you talk about some other cases where you're kind of in that life or death scenario and jiu-jitsu has been able to help you kind of get out of that stage, whether it's in your business or maybe in your relationships or just anywhere else where jiu-jitsu has kind of helped you like escape from that position, so to speak?
I think that, I'll have trained jiu-jitsu now for 9 years. We did some stripes for the girls last night, and my coach says he's doing stripes on Monday, so I think I'm going to get a 4th stripe. I think I'm getting a 4th stripe on my brown belt. So again, at 9 years, I'll be a 4-stripe brown belt. To me, in the beginning, when I first started training jiu-jitsu, I did think a little bit more like when I was having a problem, I would be like, "Damn, this is nothing compared to jiu-jitsu. There's that big guy sitting on me. Now it's just second nature. It is. I mean, you don't want to sound cocky, but it's who I am. Like shit does not faze me. I'm the most patient person I've ever been in my entire life, and I do. That's all from jiu-jitsu. I can put a straight line from that to jiu-jitsu. Number one, it's like, does this problem really freaking matter? No, it doesn't. I mean, I can, our minds are set to problem solve in jiu-jitsu, and I've just really carried that over into my life. I'm like, I don't freak out about anything. Again, my wife gets mad if we're arguing and she's just like, "You're not freaking out?" And I'm like, how is that going to help? Same way, like I think you said about your coach having your back. Like if you freak out, you're fucked. If you freak out, it's the worst possible thing. And sometimes we don't realize it, but if you just take that millisecond or second, in life a few seconds, but on the mat, you got to take just like a millisecond and go, chill the fuck out, figure out where I am, address the issue, address the problem, address the submission, where am I in trouble, and then how do you proceed? I mean, that's every day, that's every single day of my life, whether it's business or personal. So I never freak out. I'm like cool as a cucumber. I think I am. Again, back to that ride in the ambulance. If that couldn't faze me, like a client, it doesn't happen too often, but a client not liking a logo that we did or upset that their website went down. Again, these things don't really happen, but if something like that, like I don't freak out, and I make sure that they don't freak out. Listen, you have my cell number. You can text me. Let's figure out the solution. Let's not focus on the problem. Let's figure out how do we get out of this. Not how did we get here? I could talk about how we got here, and then we're just caught up in how we got here. Well, let's fix it, and let's talk about a solution so that we don't wind up there again. So, I think after 9 years, it's just such a normal part of my life. How long have you guys been training, Scotty?
I've been training 10 years.
10
I'm
years.
a brown
And
belt
what
as
about
well.
you, Paul?
I've been training between Judo and Jiu-Jitsu 13 years. So I'm a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu, brown belt in Judo.
So I'm preaching to the choir here, man.
A moment.
You guys know, man. It's just like, before I trained, I was the guy with my buddies in my 20s and my 30s. When I was younger, in my 20s, we'd be like, let's have a fight. Let's start a fight somewhere tonight. When I got into my 30s, it was just like puffing my chest out, walking to the club, walking to a bar, thought I was king shit. And as soon as I started to train, I realized how much I didn't know. I realized how much I didn't really know how to fight. And then the scariest thing to me was realizing that there are a bunch of guys out there that don't look like fighters, that know how to fight, and I could be potentially getting my ass fucking handed to me, or my fucking face broken, black eye, whatever, right? Once you realize that, talk about a humbling experience. That really set. I had a fight. My last fight, I was like 36 years old on New Year's. Some guy attacked me in the bathroom, and we get into a scuffle. He gets arrested, but never again. I don't even think about it. If there's a fight over there, I'm over there. I don't want to have anything to do with it because I don't want to be getting in trouble for fucking somebody up or hurting them. But again, in the beginning, you really realize, holy shit, I didn't know what I didn't know. And man, I don't know what that guy knows. Right? I got an endless group of training partners, cops, accountants, attorneys. These guys, like skinny bean poles, fat guys, heavier guys than me. I'm walking around 230 most of the time these days. I got guys way bigger than me that look like they're so out of shape, and those guys can run circles. They've got more cardio than I do. Some of those guys are close to half my age, but you get the point. It's like you don't know who you're dealing with. And I mean, if that's not a wake-up call or a humbling experience, then yeah, you're not training enough jiu-jitsu. You're really not getting it. But I think jiu-jitsu weeds out those people that are in there for the wrong reasons, to learn how to fight so they can go beat people up. And if they do come in for that, we wind up either usually weeding them out, or they see the light and go, no, this is different. I want to learn this to protect myself, my family, to get in shape, maybe to compete, maybe to do this as a career. And it's not about being an asshole and a bully anymore, right? So I know for me that's been my path, man. I was definitely a troublemaker in my 20s and 30s. Me and my buddies would go out, drink, and look for trouble. And now it's just the complete opposite. You see a group of guys over in, like, we're the group of guys over in the corner, like old men, families, business guys. You wouldn't, unless you see the ears on some of the guys, like nobody would have any. I'm always in a jiu-jitsu shirt, so that sometimes if they see, I'm always in a Jiu-Jitsu Dummies shirt or something. But for the most part, unless you're advertising it, people just don't know, and we're just like the quiet guys in the corner now.
It's so true, man. It's so true. I want to speak on what you said, but I want to hear if Scotty has anything, because I feel like I've asked every question. So, Scotty, over to you, brother. Do you have a question or some point of insight to bring up?
Yeah, no, man. It's it's the same story with a lot of people, right? Where like, it's the training is when you stop fighting. I was the exact same way, and when I was younger, I remember this one time this dude told me not to. He's like, "Hey man, could you not start any fights tonight?" And I'm like, "What, me? What?" And I start training jiu-jitsu. Yeah, and start training jiu-jitsu, and you're like, "Oh no, I have been lucky my whole life. I've been super lucky." But yeah, man,
right?
It's a huge piece. You don't know what you don't know.
I got a buddy that I keep in touch. I live in Florida. I got a buddy a very good friend that I keep in touch with in New York. And maybe about like 4 or 5 years into my jiu-jitsu, he saw some picture online and he texted me. He's like, "Now you start training jiu-jitsu?" We got into all those fights back in the day. He's like, "Now you're training jiu-jitsu?" He said something along the lines too of like, "Where were you when we needed you?" But usually he was the skinny beanpole getting into the fights, and me and my buddies were the ones that come up and clean up his mess. But shout out to Eddie in New York.
I love it, man. And you're so right. Like, there's so many instances in jiu-jitsu where you just get humbled and reminded. Like, for example, shout out to Tai Oyama at Springfield Fight Club. He's a 18-year-old wrestler, but if you see him walking around, like Ty, he just looks like a normal kid. Like, he's athletic for sure, but he's not like, he's definitely in shape, but he's not like jacked. It just looks like a nice normal kid who grew up being athletic, right? But dude, the other day, he like single leg takedown me in a split second, got on top, and he banana splitted me from like the top position. Yeah. And it happened in like 30 seconds. And again, I've been training like 13 years, and he just like manhandled me. And he's going to go to wrestle, I think, at Ohio State or something. Or no, he's going to Mizzou. He's going to Mizzou. So he's a D1 committed wrestler. And I think he's probably about to be like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. So like there's these dudes who are freaking like 17, 18, who have been wrestling and jiu-jitsu their whole life. Like, yeah. And they will fuck you up if they get into a street fight. Like at our gym, there's a kid named Carter who's coming up, who's vicious boxer. That's literally his nickname. He's had his, I think his third MMA fight. Every MMA fight he's had, he's finished them with liver shots. Like, we're calling him the Liver King. Because he's 18, he's freaking
cut out there, but I'm gonna
18 years old, going around liver shotting everyone that he runs into, basically.
We lost you, Paulie.
Anyway, I'm frozen.
Yeah, I got a good story for you, Scotty. I tell this story a lot. I tell this story a lot on the show because I think this like sums up when we talk about like kids in jiu-jitsu. My friend who we started at different gyms, but I met him at my second gym, and this guy, his name's Mauricio, and his son actually started training first, and then he's, my school is famous for getting the parents in. You get the kid on the mat, then they get their hands on the husband and the wife. But he started training, and his son was training for a couple of years, and Mauricio tells me, he texts me one time, he's just like, my son got into a fight at school today. And I'm like, oh shit. He's just like, yeah, he's like, funny enough, like the first thing I asked was, is the other kid okay? And I was just like, okay, right, that's funny. That was just like a good story right there. Fast forward a few months, it turns out his son was basically getting bullied by the same guy, big kid. Guy's was probably at that time was probably as tall as I am now, and he was just like 13 years old, like big dude, big kid. Fast forward from that fight. The bully is training at our gym, just starts training at our gym randomly. And he trains, his sister trains, and his father wound up started training later. But the kid starts training, and it's like, oh shit, now Mauricio's son is training, and the bully's training there. It's like, oh fuck, what's going to happen? Fast forward, geez, I've been there 6 years. So fast forward 5 years, they're best friends now. They're best friends. Now the bully is bigger than me now. He's a regular training partner of mine. So I didn't even realize. Somebody said last night he's 18. He's talking about his senior trip and stuff last night. I'm like, oh shit, man, it's been that long. They're best friends now, inseparable. It's just like the power of jiu-jitsu. Not only did Mauricio's son like get the better of this much bigger, stronger kid in that scuffle at school, jiu-jitsu winds up bringing these two guys together who would probably never have been friends, maybe even continued to have issues at school. Inseparable. That to me, I love telling that story because to me that's, just one side. We talk about the power of jiu-jitsu. There's so many like different, the power to do this, the power for mental health, the power for, keeping you in shape. But that's so amazing as it relates to, helping kids and putting kids on the right track. And the kid is, again, he's I'm like 5'11", 230. He's taller than me and bigger than me. He's a fucking sweetheart. And I don't think he was a sweetheart before, but he's a sweetheart of a kid, and it's because of jiu-jitsu. He's learned how to like control himself, and I think we have a huge kids program in our school. It just put him into a place where now he's got all of these just embedded friends. These kids, like, they go on trips together. They're like, even like younger and some of the older kids, they're like having sleepovers all together at people's houses, like, the 13s to the 17, 18, like they're all friends and they're just like look out for each other. And I said to one of my training partners last night, I'm like, it's got to, like, other kids got to be scared of these kids at school, not because they're mean, but just like they get together and then they're all talking about jiu-jitsu. I wonder if they're known as like those jiu-jitsu kids, like watch out for them. Even the skinny kids and the little ones and the guys that would be the runt of the litter, but power jiu-jitsu.
Man, you're really hitting on something big. Like, that's what the whole show is about, is that jiu-jitsu is the outlet for us all to become better people and ultimately create a more peaceful world. Because, dude, we're hitting on something big. Like, jiu-jitsu has this ability to create like a kinship between people. Like, there's something primal that happens when you train with someone and you spar and you, like, especially with men, like we form this bond of like, oh, you're my battle buddy, you're my brother in arms. We just train together to fight the unknown enemy out there or something, the greater enemy.
Right? These are people that otherwise I probably wouldn't have met.
Right.
I probably wouldn't call friend, not, we would have never been in the same environment. We just probably would have never been at the bar at the same time and talked, and just would have been this random person that I would have never associated with. And now these people have been to my home, know my wife. I've been to their houses. We go and have drinks together, watch the fights together, and it's just this this amazing, unspeakable bond that you just you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere. I think I could be squaring off with a guy somewhere and then find out he does jiu-jitsu and be like, oh, yeah, where do you train? And then it's
what
just
up,
like
brother?
Brothers, man. You're brothers wherever you are. Right?
Man, I heard of this story. I think it was actually on Reddit. Someone actually, I think, posted this in the Reddit BJJ or something. But they said that they like got into a road rage incident with some dude, and this guy like went to shoot for a double leg, and then the other guy sprawled and went for a guillotine, and he did like a proper defense. And they looked at each other. They're like, "Wait, do you train?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Where are you headed?" And they were headed to the.
There, right?
But they were headed to the same open mat. And that was like the big story. They were like on route to the same freaking open mat, and they got into a road rage, but it became buddies. But anyway, like, you're totally right. Like, dude, when I was in the army living over in Europe, I got to train in Germany, and I got to meet people all over the world. And like, I have people who are Russians who are like my best friends, where I could hit them up if I was over there right now and be like, "Hey, I'm back in Germany. Let's chill." And like, where else am I gonna hang out with a bunch of Russian guys? You know what I'm saying? Like, especially now in the world today, like, this is the kind of stuff that we need more of. I have friends from all over. Like, I've met Chinese people through jiu-jitsu. Guess what? They're fucking awesome. Like, just like everyone else. My Russian friends, fucking awesome. Like, I hope you guys get to meet them someday. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's an amazing community. The things that it could do for, soldiers with PTSD or, people with drug addiction. I mean, I've seen it all. I've trained with people, spoken to them openly about it. I've never, if it's happening in other sports, and I'm sure that it does, I haven't had conversations with I worked with the We Defy Foundation for a little while, a couple of years, an ambassador for a few years, and I didn't serve, but, I've never seen like a We Defy for basketball or football, or hockey, right? It doesn't exist, but in our world, it's like, no, get those guys, get those warriors. They need an outlet like this. They need the camaraderie. They need the brotherhood. It's just like unlike anything. Even take it to boxing and other martial arts. It doesn't exist. I don't know of those organizations. Maybe they do, and I don't know about them. But as it relates to jiu-jitsu, we have all of these. I've had people from BJJ Cops on. We talk about BJJ for law enforcement. We talk about it for addiction. We talk about it. Jiu-jitsu's for everyone. Nobody in boxing's going, no, boxing's for everyone. Yeah, no, you could start when you're 60. None of that's happening. There's something unique about jiu-jitsu that I just, right, we want to shout it from the rooftops. It's like, you want to shake people sometimes, like, come on, just try it once. I'm telling you, it's going to help you, And sometimes I see a story on TV, right, and I'm just sitting there by myself, and I'm like, that guy should train some jiu-jitsu. Somebody needs to get him.
Yeah.
I look around by myself, and I'm just talking to the television. That guy needs some jiu-jitsu in his life, It's like it's like the answer to everything,
And it's crazy because really what you're saying when we're saying jiu-jitsu is the thing, what you're really saying is getting in a fight with someone but eliminating punching and kicking will solve all of your problems. It's almost like, hey, get in sort of a fight with people often and all your problems will be changed.
I still
it's crazy when you think about it.
I have my own thoughts about it. Is that there's this thing that just makes it. There's this beauty in it. I ask guests all the time, "What is it? What is it?" Maybe not. What is it in general? Like, what is it for you? Why do you think it brings people together? Why do you think that somebody who's in a wheelchair could do jiu-jitsu, right? We've got soldiers with PTSD and drug addicts and people with marital issues, right? It's just like, listen, this is have you seen, I don't know how new it is, but I've just been hearing the sound clips of Joe Rogan citing some study from overseas where they were saying that physical exercise has been shown to do more for people than I think to help with mental health more than actual going to a doctor and having a therapy session. Like the study showed, one of those studies are showing that physical activity is better than sitting down with that doctor. And it's like, lo and behold, we've been here going, kind of saying that forever. You can go, how do you come home after a super stressful day and just sit on the couch and do nothing? Like that energy has to go somewhere. That's real. That's literal energy. Like it's intangible, but there's this energy that you have to exert. You have to get, I say, bricks off your shoulder or, weight off your shoulder. If you don't get rid of that, like some people go home and, women have, or, stereotypically women will go home and have a glass of wine, right? To wind down for the day. This is what we do, right? At the end of the day, we go, try to murder our friends, and it makes us feel good, and then we, hug it out and go home, So, I don't know. It's, whatever it is, I'm glad I found it, and I don't see myself stopping,
Yeah, it's crazy how strong a bond can be just based on the fact that you've tried to kill someone else and they've tried to kill you. Like, I got this one buddy named Caven, and we don't talk much. We hang out during class, but outside of class, I've never seen him and never hung out with him. But he's as close as a brother as I can say to anyone. And I was just like tripping about it the other day. I told one of my other buddies, I was like, dude, I have so much respect for this guy, mostly because I try to kill him and he survives. It's crazy. I try my best to get this dude. He's a purple belt, big dude, strong, and he is just like the perfect amount of flexible, strong, smart. So he like gets out of like these chain submissions that I try to put together, and then out of nowhere will be threatening me with a triangle. And it's just like it makes me so frustrated. I'm like, I gotta kill this guy. But at the end of it, I'm like, dude, I give him a big old hug, and I'm like, thank you for the war today, dude.
Yeah.
And he's like, hell yeah, brother, always. And it's just like,
man.
whatever that dude's in, I'm in it with him. Like wherever we're at, I got you.
I rained down a crazy amount of neon belly, neon chest, and neon necks in the same guy last night in the same role. And I'm gonna say this. This is I don't want to say it's ego, but again, they were doing stripes last night. They told us they were going to be handing out some stripes. So coach is walking around. He's even we have one coach walking around, our main coach rolling, the owner rolling. And, you got to, like, make sure you're going to earn this one, So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a stripe. Let me go a little bit harder on some of the blue belts than I normally do. So I was raining down on this guy. And I came home and I was taking a shower. And I'm like, they didn't do stripes for the guys last night. They postponed it to Monday, but the girls got theirs. Because we've got a female, like the husband-wife team and the female coach. So she's like, I'm going to do the girls tonight, the guys on Monday. And I'm in the shower and I felt so bad. I felt so like he's such a sweetheart of a guy. He just got his blue belt a few months ago, and he's never, we used to have this guy. His name was Ouch. He's like got this Brazilian name, but however you broke it down, people just started calling him Ouch because not only was it his name, but he used to just rain down a knee on sternum, a good knee on the sternum. He'd be on knee on belly, and then just switch it to a knee on sternum. Everybody tapped. And that's what I was doing to this kid last night. And I felt so guilty and so bad later. But he was, when we stopped, he was just smiling and he thanked me. I was just like, I really tried to hurt. I didn't just try to get him to tap. It was hurtful. I was like, I'm going to earn my stripe on this brown belt tonight. And I felt bad about it later. So I'm sorry, Ryan.
I love it, man.
Milton angry.
I love it. We've talked about it on the show before, man, but one of the best things, like from a therapeutic perspective that I think jiu-jitsu brings is that it literally encourages the evil behaviors that usually are completely discouraged. So like, and literally even to the point of our language, like if I give you a compliment, like if I'm talking about Scott on the mat and I'm like, man, Milton, Scott's really sneaky. Like in any other context, that is a bad thing. Like in business, in life, in your relationships, you don't want to be sneaky. You don't want to be known as sneaky. But in jiu-jitsu, if I'm like, hey, he's sneaky, you're like, whoa, he's sneaky. Oh, wow, that's really cool. Like your respect, your admiration for it increases.
I'm going to be over there in the corner like this. Like I want to see what Scotty's sneaky at so I can avoid it when we roll.
Exactly. Like I tell people like
before we even get on the mat.
Or like, what's a common compliment in jiu-jitsu? It's like, hey, you're becoming a real problem. It's like, hey, bro, you're becoming a real problem in here. He's becoming a real problem. Yeah, he's a murderer.
Problem, murderer, sneaky, right?
But like it literally.
Like, you're real strong.
Yeah, but like literally, there is a part of me that's sneaky, but I don't want to be sneaky. I don't have any other place in my life that I can express that ethically, and I don't want to because I'm a good dude. But on the mats, it's like, oh, I get to be the Sith Lord here. I get to be Venom. I get to be the bad guy.
I don't know how I'm gonna last the 7 tonight because we were choke somebody out right now. I want to get or get choked. I don't care whichever way it winds up going. Let's do this.
My freaking thing froze right when I was about to make a point. But I was saying, dude, like right now I'm with Glory MMA, and if you guys follow the news at all, James Krause, our head coach, is under a little bit of controversy. We're all sticking by him, but I was saying, man, like kind of something that we were talking about the other day. We were like, oh, I think that the MMA world wants us to just be the bad guys more. We were like, we'll be the bad guys. Yeah. Like, we have a pretty nasty style of jiu-jitsu. So we were like, we get to be the bad guys more on the mats because we're I don't know, got a reputation now. and it's become almost a joke. Like, we made all these shirts that say, like, Glory MMA versus everyone and all this other stuff. Yeah. So it's like, even, like, you can take these things on the mats and you get to, again, it's like the one place where you can be the bad guy, if that makes sense. Yeah, you get to kind of take that on. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
He was one of my favorite fighters on the show, on the Ultimate Fighter.
I think I can't.
Definitely loved him as a as a coach in the UFC. Man, he's just he was great. I was sorry to hear what went down. Allegedly, are we saying allegedly or?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where that process is.
You're right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We'll say allegedly.
Yeah.
But he's definitely a badass coach. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's super badass, man. He was guillotining the hell out of me the other day, a couple weeks ago. But anyway, I know we got to wrap this up, man, and this has been an outstanding conversation. But Milton, can we just want to turn it over to you, man? Can you tell us a little bit about your podcast and just share with us like any highlights that you've taken away from doing it recently? Like, are there any things that you really want to share with us about, doing the show and what you've learned from it?
Sure, man. It's the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. We're everywhere. We do the video cast, as we call it a video cast, I guess, for YouTube. You can find us on all the big and small podcast apps, so we're everywhere. When we started the podcast, we started it, it was me and I started it, but I invited 4 of my training partners. So we were like this Jiu-Jitsu roundtable. And then we started inviting people, and we'd have guests and coaches, and we slowly got to like bigger and bigger names. But it was we never intended to be like interviewing famous people, in our world at least. COVID kind of changed that for us, and we got into this interview style, and then eventually it was like me and one other guy, or just me interviewing people because, COVID, we were like right in the middle of this craziness and inviting people to sit down. We were almost always trying to get them into the studio, which was my house at the time. So we really just love having conversations just like this, kind of getting to know like the regular Joes of jiu-jitsu. That's how we started. Happy and super excited to interview more famous people and stuff like that. But we've even gotten back to recently where it's just me and my co-host, just talking about jiu-jitsu and like current events and things that are going on. But my heart is as it relates to the show. I love having law enforcement officers on that train. My dad is still around, alive and kicking, but he's a former law enforcement officer. So knowing the job as a son who used to watch his dad leave for work, and he was a cop in New York City, and police officer gets shot, wait for that phone to ring. I remember those times when my mom was just like pacing in the house or watching the news, waiting for that call. They always had an agreement that he would call right away, let her know, hey, it wasn't me. I'm okay. I have a special place in my heart for law enforcement. And again, I was an ambassador for the Redefy Foundation, and love having veterans on. Most of the guys that I started with actually were all people who served, and the one girl that we had on, her husband was a active Marine. He was in the Marine Reserves. He served in the Marines and then was in the Marine Reserves, and now he's like I don't want to say where he is now. He serves in the government now, in a government job. So I just kind of have this special place in my heart for like talking about those things and bringing those guys in, because I guess having a dad that was in law enforcement and him not having any of this. There was no talk about jiu-jitsu for law enforcement. There was no continuing physical education. You had to qualify with your gun once a year, but that was it. So I just kind of I like to hear those stories and see those people come on the show. But at the end of the day, kind of like when we started here, I just love hearing about people's stories. We're not really getting into a lot of like, oh, your favorite move and how do you do this? And I got caught in this Kimura last night. What would you do? And that's not what we're about. We like the story around jiu-jitsu, how you got your start. But sometimes, just like your take on what's going on in the world and current events. I mean, that's where we live. I called it Jiu-Jitsu Dummies for a reason, because I started this when I was a purple belt, and I never wanted anybody to come in and think that I wanted to be preachy. I'm the dummy. We were the dummies. We were like, we want to learn from the people that we're talking to, and I never wanted anybody to be like, hey, those guys, yeah, he thinks he knows. Well, listen, right here, right off the bat, I'm the dummy, so just take everything I say and throw it out the window. But if I have these people on that are talking about jiu-jitsu, I think the best feedback that we get is when people tell us, Yo, man, this sounds like me and my buddies when we're just like we finish a rolling session, we're talking on the mat, or when we go for a beer and some pizza or wings. This is exactly how we're talking. So when they say when they put the podcast on, they just feel like they're in the room with their buddies, and that's really what we always wanted to accomplish. But you know, I don't see this ending anytime for us soon. You know, I really feel like I tell people this is my retirement program. We've been recording since 2019. Is that 4 years now? I think May was 4 years since we aired our first one, and we got very lucky that we got sponsors and people that really believed in us in the beginning. We were giving away lots of stuff, and then they started giving us money, and it was just like, oh wow, this is a real thing. It went from a hobby to a job, and like I said, man, I left a six-figure job to do this more full time. We were doing it twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month maybe. Now we do it 3 to 4. I did open up a marketing company to help fund it, but that's also what helped it become a success was my marketing background. We had some, you know, most people put it out and just like, let's see, you know, build it and they will come, and that's not what we did. We said, hey guys, check us out over here. We were giving stuff away and giving away t-shirts, and we really built it up. So it holds a huge special place in my heart. Hopefully, my daughter works for my marketing company, and I told her, I'm building this for you. The podcast is mine. I'm building the marketing company for you. I can help you out, draw a salary, but my heart is with the podcast.
Man, that's awesome. We're on a very similar trajectory too, man. It sounds like a lot like what Scotty and I are doing with business development.
I wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you so much for having me on, man. It's been fun. You see, I could talk about jiu-jitsu for hours. You know,
yeah. Dude,
and I do. I get to do it once a week.
You do. Yeah, it's great. I love it, Milton. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And hey, if you're listening to this, go subscribe to the Jiu-Jitsu Dummies Podcast. I'm going to put all the links down below. So go read those links in the show notes and click them. And then click the other button that says subscribe. It's like 3 buttons you got to click. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Milton. We'll do this again sometime, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, guys.